Let me tell you something about the sound of power. It isn't always thunderous. Sometimes it's just the rip of paper at an airport gate, echoing off tile floors like a shot. That's what did it really 1 second. Everyone's chatting, fiddling with phones, and the next, the whole gate at Providence International goes dead quiet. All eyes swiveling to where a 17-year-old girl stands frozen as her first-class ticket floats to the floor in pieces, and a gate agent with a too-perfect smile says, "This ticket is invalid. Next passenger, please." You ever been in a place where you just know something's not right, but for a second nobody does a thing? That was Zora Washington's morning. And let me back up a sec because you need to know where this started to understand where it went. It began like any other day, really sunrise slanting through a Rhode Island kitchen. Her dad, Marcus, pouring coffee with the quiet confidence of a man who's built his own legacy from nothing but grit and vision. The kind of dad who straightens his collar before you've even put your shoes on, checks his watch, always 5 minutes early, always carrying a weight most folks never see. "You sure you don't want me to drive you?" he asks, because he still can't help himself. Not after all these years. Zora rolls her eyes affectionately. You know, because she's been flying alone since she was 12, and she's proud, stubborn, with her mother's eyes and her father's chin, and all the invisible expectations that come with being his daughter. The ticket was a birthday present first class, her own adventure, no watchful parent hanging back. That's the idea. Time you experienced how the other half lives, her dad joked, but there's an edge in his voice, something left unsaid, the kind of caution that comes from a lifetime of being underestimated. When he hugs her goodbye, it lingers. "Call me when you land. And if anyone gives you trouble about that seat, you tell them to call me directly." Zora laughs. "It's 2025, Dad, not 1960, but the look in his eyes sticks with her, even as the car pulls away. Now, airports are strange places for people like Zora. She's always known how to move through them, boarding pass out, shoes off, laptop in a tray, smile polite but distant. Her dad's airline, Meridian, doesn't even fly out of Providence, just to keep things clean. She's flying Continental today, and the first-class ticket is like an invisible badge proud, but also dangerous, depending on who's looking. The twist comes before the gate. She meets a retired pilot, Thomas Aldridge, old-school gentleman, firm handshake, the kind of guy who's seen it all but still finds joy in talking to a smart, ambitious kid about dreams of MIT and aerospace. There's something in the way he looks at her: respect, curiosity, and an awareness of how things work in the world, for better or worse. "MIT would be lucky to have you," he says, echoing her dad. And for a moment, the world feels full of possibilities. Then boarding is called, and Zora joins the line of business travelers, feeling every gaze on her as she hands over her pass. The gate agent Barbara, her tag gleaming, scans it, and everything shifts. The smile drops, the tone sharpens, and suddenly Zora is answering questions she's heard 100 times before, but never gets easier. "How did you get this ticket? Who gave it to you?" The implication hangs heavy, and when Barbara tears up the pass, it's not just paper she's destroying, it's Zora's sense of belonging, her right to be there. And that's when everything happens at once: some folks looking away, some pulling out their phones, and Zora, standing small but refusing to disappear. Here's her own voice, quiet but clear. "I'd like to speak to my father." Marcus Washington, CEO of Meridian Airlines. Now, that changes the temperature in the room, you know what I mean? It only takes 10 minutes. Her dad calls the CEO of Continental, activates protocols nobody's ever wanted to use, but always had ready, because travel while black is a real thing, and Marcus has lived it his whole career. In the time it takes to rebook a ticket, the airport turns upside down. A supervisor hustles over, apologies tumble out, but Zora isn't having it. Not the vouchers, not the platitudes. "I want an acknowledgement of what really happened," she says, and for a moment, even the people in uniforms don't know where to look. And that's when Thomas, the old pilot, steps forward. "I witnessed the whole thing," he tells the supervisor. "The young lady is right. A witness, a veteran, a white man with decades in the sky." Suddenly the conversation can't be swept away. Oh, and twist, the entire thing is caught on half a dozen cell phones. The video's already bouncing across social media before her father even arrives. Marcus shows up with the force of a thunderstorm in a business suit 6'2", all intensity, voice carrying so much power the Continental execs are practically vibrating. Your gate agent tore up my daughter's ticket and said, "People like you don't belong in first class." Which part of your values does that reflect? No answer is good enough. Not really. And Marcus demands to see the gate agent herself. When Barbara is brought in, something passes between her and Marcus, a flicker of recognition. Fear. Something deeper. At first, Barbara gives the corporate apology hollow, practiced. But Marcus doesn't let up. He lays out her history, her commendations and disciplinary marks. And then, bit by bit, the truth surfaces, a story buried for 37 years. Turns out, back in 1988, Barbara was the flight attendant ordered to move a young Marcus Washington from his first-class seat because a white passenger complained. The co-pilot that day? Captain Reynolds, now a senior Continental pilot, standing right there. The realization crashes over everyone. What happened to Zora isn't just an isolated mistake, it's history repeating itself, biases passed down, systems never truly fixed. Barbara, finally honest, admits the worst part: what she did to Zora wasn't calculated. It was reflex. It was instinctive, ingrained, she says. She'd been trained never openly, but always implieto protect first class, to question who belonged. And it's not just her. The whole industry has been quietly doing this for decades. Zora listens, heart pounding, as her father makes a choice. "I want Barbara to keep her job," Marcus says, stunning the room. "She's the first one here who's been honest. If you want real change, you don't erase the problem, you face it head-on, with the people who can actually teach you what went wrong." For a second, nobody breathes. Then Zora, feeling the weight and freedom of her own voice, says, "Change doesn't happen without accountability. And accountability starts with truth." She asked to hear the whole story, Charlotte, 1988, all of it. And in the aftermath, in a conference room buzzing with lawyers and CEOs, a plan forms. Audits, transparency, Barbara as a key advisor, the kind of industry overhaul nobody believed would ever happen. Even competing airlines join together to face down the past and build something better. When the news breaks, the world reacts, hashtags trend, statements fly, people demand better. But what matters most is what happens next. Zora flies to Chicago, this time on a private jet. Continental bending over backward to do right by her, and as the lights of the city come into view, she realizes she's changed. She's no longer the girl who hesitated at the gate, but someone who claimed her place and demanded others do the same. 6 months later, Zora boards a flight to Boston for her first year at MIT. The airport is different, policies posted, staff wearing respect pins, Barbara and Marcus working side by side on new training materials. Captain Reynolds shares his story with new pilots. The numbers on discrimination drop. But as Zora hugs her dad goodbye, both know there's always more work to do, and victory isn't the whole battle, but it's a start. When Zora's ticket is scanned by a smiling agent, no hesitation, no suspicion, she smiles back, settles in her seat, and fingers an old business card, faded ink still legible. A relic from her father's past, a promise never to let what happened then go unanswered now. The captain's voice comes, "Oh, it's Thomas Aldridge, the old pilot she met at the gate that day, now flying Meridian." As the plane lifts into the sky, Zora looks out the window, thinking of all the people who still need to know they belong. And in that moment, as the world turns below and possibility opens wide, she believes just for a little while that maybe, finally, we're headed somewhere better. If you made it here, take a moment to share what you think about justice, about belonging, about whether real change is even possible in a world built on old rules. Drop your thoughts below, because this isn't just a story, it's a conversation that keeps flying as long as we keep it going.